In recent months, the political landscape surrounding Harvard University's extensive ties with China has shifted dramatically, transforming what was once seen as an advantageous relationship into a potential liability. Historically, Harvard's engagement with China has been characterized by high-profile collaborations and a steady influx of Chinese students, contributing to the university's reputation as a global academic leader. However, as geopolitical tensions escalate between the United States and China, Harvard's associations are increasingly scrutinized, raising concerns about national security and academic freedom. The backdrop of this evolving situation is marked by heightened scrutiny from lawmakers and the public alike. Harvard's connections to Chinese institutions have come under fire, particularly in light of recent revelations regarding Chinese government funding and influence in American academia. The lines between academic collaboration and national security have become blurred, observed a prominent political analyst. Institutions like Harvard must navigate these complexities carefully or risk being seen as complicit in China's strategic ambitions. One of the most significant developments in this narrative is the growing bipartisan consensus in Washington regarding the need to reassess educational ties with China. Both sides of the aisle have expressed concerns that such relationships may compromise U.S. interests and inadvertently aid China's technological and military advancements. This has led to calls for greater transparency and accountability in how universities manage foreign partnerships, particularly those involving Chinese entities. Data from recent studies indicate that public sentiment is shifting as well. A survey conducted by a leading research institute found that approximately 65% of American respondents believe that universities should limit their partnerships with Chinese institutions due to national security concerns. This growing apprehension reflects a broader anxiety about China's global aspirations and its implications for U.S. sovereignty. The repercussions of this changing perception are already being felt within the halls of Harvard. University administrators are facing mounting pressure to distance themselves from Chinese funding sources and to publicly affirm their commitment to academic integrity and national security. As one Harvard official noted, we must ensure that our partnerships align with our values and the interests of our nation. The landscape is evolving and we must adapt accordingly. Moreover, the implications of this situation extend beyond Harvard. Institutions across the United States are reevaluating their relationships with Chinese partners, with some universities opting to sever ties entirely. This trend raises critical questions about the future of academic collaboration in an increasingly polarized world. Experts warn that if universities retreat from international partnerships, they risk isolating themselves and limiting the exchange of ideas that is vital for progress. As we look to the future, it is clear that Harvard's situation serves as a microcosm of a larger dilemma facing American institutions. The balance between fostering global academic collaboration and safeguarding national interests will require careful navigation. As geopolitical tensions continue to simmer, stakeholders must engage in an ongoing dialogue to redefine the principles guiding international academic relationships. The outcome of this discourse will significantly shape the landscape of higher education and its role in a rapidly changing world. In conclusion, as Harvard grapples with the political ramifications of its ties to China, it finds itself at a crossroads, a reflection of broader tensions between the U.S. and China. The path forward will not only influence the university's future but may also set a precedent for how American institutions engage with global partners amidst shifting geopolitical currents. The evolving dynamics underscore the need for a nuanced approach that prioritizes both academic freedom and national security, ensuring that institutions can thrive without compromising their core values. In a significant escalation of trade tensions, President Donald Trump has broadened his threats to major corporations, targeting Apple and the European Union with potentially hefty tariffs. This development, which took place on Friday, May 24, 2025, signals an intensification of the ongoing trade war that has been shaping the economic landscape in the U.S. and beyond. In a series of posts on Truth Social, Trump announced a proposed 25% tariff on non-US made iPhones sold in the United States, explicitly urging Apple CEO Tim Cook to ensure that iPhones are manufactured domestically rather than in countries like India. I have long ago informed Tim Cook of Apple that I expect their iPhones that will be sold in the United States of America will be manufactured and built in the United States, Trump stated. If that is not the case, a tariff of at least 25% must be paid by Apple to the U.S. Following this announcement, Apple's stock took a hit, losing over $100 billion in market capitalization, reflecting investor concerns over the potential impacts of such tariffs. Moreover, Trump extended his tariffs threat to the European Union, proposing a staggering 50% levy on EU-imported products starting June 1, 2025. He expressed frustration over stalled negotiations with the bloc, claiming our discussions with them are going nowhere. Therefore, I am recommending a straight 50% tariff on the European Union. The EU, which has signaled readiness to retaliate with $108 billion in tariffs if these measures go into effect, has urged calm amid the heightened rhetoric. While Trump's focus on Apple is not new, his recent comments suggest a more aggressive stance, potentially impacting other smartphone manufacturers such as Samsung. In discussing the tariff threats, he stated it would be also Samsung and anybody that makes that product. Otherwise, it wouldn't be fair. This broadening of the target list underscores the administration's approach to reshaping supply chains and pressuring companies to produce within U.S. borders. Caught in this turbulent environment, U.S. corporations have been vocal about the adverse effects of tariffs. Walmart's CEO Doug McMillon recently acknowledged the challenges posed by tariffs, stating, "The immediate challenge is obviously navigating the impact of tariffs here in the U.S." Similarly, other companies, including the sneaker maker Deckers, have reported significant cost increases due to tariff pressures, raising concerns about their ability to absorb these expenses without passing them on to consumers. The broader economic implications of Trump's tariff threats are profound. Economists warn that the U.S. economy could face inflationary pressures as businesses grapple with rising costs. The recent rebound in U.S. economic output, as indicated by S&P Global's Flash Composite PMI, shows signs of growth, but the specter of higher tariffs is likely to disrupt supply chains and escalate prices. Supply chain delays are now more prevalent than at any time since the pandemic led to widespread shortages in 2022, noted S&P Global's chief business economist Chris Williamson. On the international front, the U.S.-China trade relationship remains tense, with both nations signaling a commitment to continue discussions. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent sought to reassure markets by announcing that the U.S. would unveil several large trade deals in the coming weeks, hinting at ongoing negotiations that could mitigate some of the tariff-related impacts. As the trade war escalates, the ripple effects are felt not just within the U.S. but across global markets. Countries like Vietnam are caught in the crossfire as they seek to navigate their own trade relationships while responding to U.S. demands about supply chain integrity. The situation is especially complex for Vietnam, which relies heavily on Chinese imports for its manufacturing processes. Looking ahead, the landscape remains fraught with uncertainty. The potential for retaliatory tariffs from the EU, the ongoing tensions with China, and the broader implications for global trade policy all signal that the challenges posed by tariffs will continue to dominate discussions in boardrooms and government offices alike. With major corporations and economies on high alert, the coming weeks will be crucial in determining the trajectory of these trade relationships and their impact on the global economy. As geopolitical tensions rise, particularly in the Indo-Pacific region, the United States is exploring advanced military technologies to maintain its strategic edge over China. The introduction of next-generation fighter jets and loyal wingmen drones presents a critical opportunity for the U.S. military to enhance its operational capabilities amid concerns about China's rapidly modernizing military and expanding fleet. Recent statements from U.S. military leaders highlight a pressing need for adaptation in response to the evolving battlefield dynamics. General David Ulvin, the Chief of Staff of the U.S. Air Force, recently showcased the YFQ-42A unmanned combat aerial vehicle UCAV on social media, touting its potential as a cost-effective and lethal addition to the U.S. aerial arsenal. This drone is part of the Air Force's Collaborative Combat Aircraft (CCA) program, which aims to develop uncrewed fighters to complement crewed aircraft in air-to-air missions. According to Ulvin, these advancements will send a clear message to adversaries, emphasizing that no doubts these uncrewed fighters will put our adversaries on notice. The U.S. military strategic pivot is underscored by a broader recognition of the readiness crisis it faces. At a recent panel discussion hosted by the Council on Foreign Relations, military leaders expressed alarm over the growing capabilities of the People's Liberation Army (PLA). "They are certainly putting a lot of resources into capabilities," said Ulvin, referring to the PLA's advancements in naval power and aerospace technology. The consensus among U.S. military leaders is that failure to adapt could result in significant strategic disadvantages. This concern is particularly acute in naval operations, where the scale of China's shipbuilding efforts has raised alarms within the U.S. Navy. Despite the qualitative superiority of American naval forces in terms of training and technology, Admiral James W. Kilby, the acting chief of naval operations, pointed out that the sheer number of vessels produced by China poses a formidable challenge. "Virtually every shipbuilding class we have is behind schedule," Kilby lamented, emphasizing the urgency of a hybrid fleet approach that combines traditional warships with unmanned surface and aerial vehicles. In this context, drone warfare has emerged as a transformative element of modern military strategy. The U.S. Air Force is transitioning away from standalone legacy systems toward integrated human-machine teams that prioritize speed, precision, and lethality. General Eric Smith, Commandant of the Marine Corps, articulated this shift, stating, "Future conflict is about range and detection." The Marine Corps has invested heavily in systems like the MQ-9 Reaper, designed for long-endurance surveillance and strike capabilities. As the U.S. navigates these challenges, the space domain has also become a focal point of military strategy. General B. Chance Saltzman of the U.S. Space Force highlighted the growing threats to American space assets, particularly from PLA advancements in anti-satellite weaponry. Saltzman emphasized the need for proactive measures to protect U.S. space capabilities, underscoring that the threats to the homeland are growing, perhaps more than we've seen in a generation. Moreover, the Arctic region is gaining strategic importance as both China and Russia enhance their military presence. Admiral Kevin Lunday of the Coast Guard expressed concerns about U.S. readiness in the Arctic, stating, "We're at our lowest readiness since World War II." He called for reinvestment in icebreakers and other capabilities to safeguard U.S. interests in this critical theater. As military planners closely monitor developments in the Indo-Pacific, the year 2027 has emerged as a potential flashpoint for tensions surrounding Taiwan. While the timeline remains uncertain, the Pentagon is preparing for a new kind of warfare that emphasizes speed, cohesion, and integrated operations across various domains. In contrast to China's rapid advancements, U.S. military leaders maintain confidence in one enduring advantage: operational experience. General Smith remarked, "Our last war was captured on an iPhone 14. Theirs was painted on oil and canvas," highlighting the PLA's lack of real-world combat exposure compared to the extensive experience of U.S. forces. As the United States seeks to counterbalance China, fostering alliances in the Indo-Pacific has become increasingly vital. Regional powers are aligning around shared concerns, creating opportunities for collaboration in defense technologies and strategic training. The path forward necessitates not only technological innovation but also unity among allies to establish a stable and resilient regional order. With the stakes higher than ever, the future of U.S.-China military dynamics will be shaped by the ability to adapt to rapidly changing technologies and strategies. The introduction of next-generation aircraft and drones, coupled with strategic partnerships, may prove crucial in preserving American military superiority in an increasingly competitive global landscape.